Hi, my name is Andrea Capere, and you're watching Mission Nonprofit. Each month, we connect with local organizations and agencies that are making a positive impact in our communities. We've invited Kai Abrahamson and Luke Miller from Capital City Pride to talk about their work. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So tell us about the mission of Capital City Pride.
So every year we put on a celebration, a parade and a festival in celebration of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, etc. community here in Olympia. We're one of many, many Pride celebrations that happen all over the country and all over the world. We have kind of a reputation for being one of the biggest and best small town prides. We don't compare to prides in cities like San Francisco or New York, but for a city of our size, we put on a pretty good show, I think. Mm-hmm. We do this every year. This is a special year for us because it is the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Riot, which was the event that kicked off Pride celebrations to begin with. In Stonewall was June 27th, 1969. Police raided a bar in Greenwich Village in New York City, and the patrons fought back against what had been a long-standing pattern of police harassment. The bars at that time were mostly owned by organized crime. It was not a healthy atmosphere for GLBTQ people. It was a very difficult time in history. And on this one night, the patrons of this bar decided to fight back, started a riot, which most historians regard as a turning point in the gay rights movement in the United States. The following year, 1970, was the first Christopher Street Liberation Day Parade, which commemorated that event. And that was the event that eventually grew into Pride, came to be celebrated in many, many cities all over the country and all over the world.
So when did it come to Thurston County?
The first Pride celebration here
it was before my time.
Quite a while. It was long before I lived here. I think it was sometime in the 1980s. But it's a very long-standing celebration here. Again, for a city this size, I mean, there are lots of places in Thurston County and in Washington State and in the country that don't have Pride celebrations of their own. But here we have ours in Olympia, which I may be biased, but I think is the best. We have one in Tacoma. Obviously, we have Seattle Pride is quite big. And a few of the outlying smaller towns have started Pride festivals of their own.
And that's a fun road trip to just go the I-5 corridor and just hit all of the Pride festivals.
Yeah, it can be hard because some of them are on the same day. June is generally Pride Month, and most of the Pride celebrations happen on some weekend in June.
Yeah.
So you'd have a job to hit all of them, I think.
Oh yeah. There's no way that you could do it.
Yeah.
So some people might point to recent advances in LGBTQ rights, marriage equality, those sorts of things, as evidence that we don't need Pride anymore. What do you say to that?
Some people might also point to some of the recent drawbacks. For example, the fact that transgender people are no longer allowed to serve openly in the military. The fact that you can still be fired from your job in many states, or kicked out of school, or have your children taken away, for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. We still do not have. If the Equality Act passes, we will finally have some protection at the federal level. But, a lot of people thought that with marriage equality, a lot of these problems would disappear. That has not proven to be the case.
And legislation aside, too, I mean, it's just kind of getting out in the open and seeing that, we're all just people and we can have a celebration together and we can yes, we need to work on those things, and we also need space to just celebrate and have fun and enjoy the sunlight, and even in Thurston County, there's still places that have a lot of negative connotations around, the GLBT community, and so, helping dispel that.
Right.
We could also look at the fact that, hate crimes have gone up here in Washington State, against GLBTQ people.
And it's surprising too, because you think of Olympia or the Pacific Northwest in particular as this enclave of acceptance, and that's changing. And that is not the reality.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are being more aware of the microaggressions that happen, which are important things to talk about, but there's a disconnect between, what these major advances that have happened, and then like understanding the minutia that's still very important, and the marginalized identities that we're still understanding how we're not giving space to them, and how we can all get along better.
Yeah, the mainstream GLBTQ movement, the rights movement that we have followed, we have made a lot of progress, but in the process, we've left a lot of people behind. There are a lot of, members of the GLBTQ community that are, feeling that their interests have really been kind of pushed to the margins in favor of, issues like marriage equality, which is all very well and good, but it really only benefits, a certain segment of the community.
Yeah.
It reinforces values that we've adopted widely as a society, but hasn't actually addressed the issue.
Right, and I mean, something like marriage equality, it really only benefits those who have, something like, property or insurance that, you want to share that with your partner, and that's great. But when so many people in the community are still not having their basic needs met, transgender people, for example, are still at, a disproportionately high risk for poverty and homelessness. There's still a lot of, violence happening, especially, GLBTQ youth are still, very much marginalized and experiencing homophobia and transphobia in their schools. There's a lot of problems, that have yet to be addressed.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, people thought that once we had marriage equality, all of these other problems were going to go away. It doesn't work like that.
Surprise.
So it's very important that we have this celebration that allows the whole community to be visible and to come together. One of the things we do at Capital City Pride is we have local organizations of all kinds, those that directly serve the GLBTQ community, as well as faith communities, vendors, we have everybody show up, and it's kind of like a one-stop shopping. You can connect with all kinds of different local groups and local people, that have resources that can be very useful to you.
And a small plug here, and community media centers, because every year TC Media covers the Pride Festival, and we're thrilled to do it again this year.
Yeah.
So we might have viewers out there that maybe they have a family member or a close friend that's just come out. Maybe they themselves are in the process of coming out. So what would you say to those audience members about how would you invite them to Pride?
Well, I guess I'd just say, come on down. It's a different day every year. It's a one-day festival. 2019's Pride will be June 23rd. The parade always starts on the Capitol steps and moves down into Heritage Park, where we have the festival for the rest of the day. I would just say, come check us out. We have entertainers on our main stage. We have drag shows. We have music acts. We have speeches. We have some of our local candidates for office have been in the parade. It's really it's a community-wide festival.
Yeah, you don't have to be on in
right.
that
You don't
group. You
have
can be
to
straight. You can be
exactly.
an ally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like everyone is welcome there, provided that they are allies and that they are, there to
Provided
support
they come with an
equality.
attitude of respect. Yeah.
And more diversity is better.
Yes.
We still don't know. I'm sure the alphabet soup of GLBTQIAA+ will continue to change, and we need to hear from those people that are just coming out to see, how their identities can add to our community.
So how can the community support you? I'm sure you've got lots of work ahead of you.
Oh, yes. It's a big job. It costs a lot of money to put on Pride, between the permits and the, renting all the equipment and all of that. We ask people and organizations to be sponsors, different levels of sponsorship. We will, mention your business in our Pride Guide, for example. And we always need volunteers to help us with the heavy work. So, especially people with like good knees and strong backs and big muscles. That's the kind of person we love to have show up and help us out. But there are actually lots of. It's a very complicated event to put on. So there are all kinds of different skill sets that we can use. So anybody who's interested in coming to help out, our website is capitalcitypride.net, and you can find information about our meetings. Show up and volunteer, or just contact us through the website, and we'll be happy to plug you in.
Great.
And we have those community meetings for a reason, and it's easy for people to show up and just voice problems and issues, which are important to hear, but the more important thing is to help accompany us into doing something better and making it a more inclusive, fun festival for everyone. So not just saying, sitting behind the computer and calling something out on what we did wrong, but, saying, hey, have you thought about this? Let's try this next year. We heard someone last year kind of lament online about not having enough trans flags on the downtown street. And so we got trans flags, and that was amazing.
Yes.
So
we hang them up on the Governor Hotel balconies. Yeah.
So, just offering ideas and support of what we can do is really helpful.
So when did those community meetings take place?
Mostly Mondays. We start with maybe every other Monday early in the year, and then we work up to every Monday as we get closer to the date. We've been using the Mix 96 conference room space.
Well, that's fantastic that you have that kind of support. Tell us a little bit more about some of your goals for the future, and maybe clue us in on a few surprises for the 50th anniversary.
I think, goals for the future is always, let's keep this family friendly. Let's keep this, event that welcomes everyone, and supports local artists, and keeps expanding what it looks like. We have last year, I did an interfaith service, so getting all of the faith communities that I could together and do kind of a service that honored some of the problems that have happened, and also a place for people to celebrate. And who knows what could happen in the future, what other things we could add into the mix of stuff.
Yeah, the main thing we want to do is remain responsive to the community's needs and ideas, and to continue, making Pride a place that celebrates everybody, and makes a bigger effort to center the more marginalized voices in our community, such as youth and elders, people of color, trans people, people struggling with poverty or homelessness. Everybody.
Disabilities.
To make it more disability accessible.
And
Yeah.
so what you were saying with the 50th, this year we were kind of toying with the idea of remembering our roots. And so centering kind of what it took to get to this place, understanding that we still have a long ways to go. But we have had this much done so far. We do have marriage equality, and that is a big deal for people. And there is more to do. But let's listen to the voices in this community and the work that they've done. And how we can do that on stage, we're not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
We'll kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it should be good.
And listen to the work that still has yet to be done.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But there's a lot to celebrate.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. In the future, who knows? I mean, we long ago we were a 2-day celebration. We did Saturday and Sunday, and for various reasons, mostly financial, we had to scale back to 1 day. But in the future, we could go to a 2-day festival again if we had the financial wherewithal to do that.
And community support. So
Right,
come on, go to
right.
that website
Yes.
again, which is
capitalcitypride.net. If you are a business or an organization and you would like to sponsor, at a high level, we love that. But we also love it when individuals just kick in a few bucks, or show up to help us hang the pride flags up and down Capitol Way, or on the Governor Hotel balconies.
And clean up the festival grounds at the end.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. Setting up and breaking down. That's
Yeah.
that's always an area where we could use help. I mean, I think the organizers of any major festival like Lake Fair or Procession of the Species, or they'll tell you these things don't run themselves.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of people power. So, and we welcome anybody who wants to come and help us out.
And I'm sure most people have seen like video of a Pride parade. But
yep.
maybe you could share with us what were some of your favorite moments from last year?
I was running booths, so unfortunately I didn't get to see the actual.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I love how many, because I work in a faith community, I think that Olympia has a great asset in the number of faith communities that show up and support everything from your Catholic inclusive community to the Church of Satan, to the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, Wiccan community. Like it's really diverse, and I think that's a really strong asset that personally I think is great.
Yeah.
So.
I also volunteer with GLBTQ youth, and I am always happy to see, groups like Stonewall Youth and Pizza Clatch in the parade, with young people, wearing their flags and being able to be out and connect with other youth and supportive adults. So that's always probably my favorite, thing to see is the Pizza Clatch youth in their pizza costumes.
They're really adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's heartwarming.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it's fun seeing all the drag performers.
I
around,
love
too,
that
and
our
it's
drag
kinda fun.
community has been very involved and has done a lot to help us fundraise too
Yeah.
in the past. Yeah.
So with just a few minutes left, is there anything else you want to share about plans going forward or just general information?
Keep tracking the website as we can plan for next year. We'll make sure that people are aware of when those community meetings are, so that we can get more voices. We're always in need of support. Show up and help. Don't just shut down ideas. Let's be in this together. So
I'm excited for this year because, being kind of a history buff, the history of how all this came about is really fascinating to me. And I also want to mention that we are affiliated with Interpride, which is an international association of pride festivals. So this really is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna continue to be, a time to celebrate and a time to build community. And I think that's always going to be important, no matter how many, political steps forward we make. Pride is always going to be relevant for that reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what are those dates again for Capital City Pride?
For 2019, it will be Sunday, June 23rd. The parade will start at noon on the Capitol steps, go down into Heritage Park, and then the festival will go until 5:30. Yeah.
And then keep an eye on TC
Right.
Media channels for about a week after that. We'll have the parade footage.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for having us
Yeah,
on.
it was great.
That's all we have for you. You can see Mission Nonprofit on Channel 77 on Sundays at 4:30 p.m., Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 7:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. You can also catch us online at tcmedia.org. See you next time.